Hello, this is Paul Nelson with Western Sport Floors, Wyoming Wood Floors, coming to you from Montana today. I'm in a middle school in a little town in the middle of Montana. Just wanted to take a look before we start sanding this floor at what we're up against. This floor has obviously been around a while. It's an older facility, but interestingly, they took the bleachers out and we're gonna sand under where the old bleachers were, and then subsequent to that, they'll put in a new set of bleachers. Let's just take a look at what's going on under those bleachers. So where the bleacher wheels were, the custodians or whoever's been recoating this floor was kind of sweeping the finish under, and it's dirt and rocks all the way along this wall. That's what it looks like. This one gives a good idea of how much finish is on this floor. Here's a pencil that's just frozen into the finish. There's areas under these bleachers where there's in excess of a 1/4 inch of finish. Underneath these bleachers, we're gonna go after it with some Norton Blaze 24 grit. This is some extremely aggressive, abrasive. I have 2 American 12 sanders. I'm gonna put 24 grit on both of these. Once I get out from under where the old bleachers used to be, I'll run 24-36. So the leading sander will be at 24 grit, the trailing sander at 36 grit. The goal is that the 24 grit maybe pulls off 75 to 85% of the finish, but that heavy, rough grit never touches the wood, and then the 36 pulls it down pretty close to bare wood at that point. I just want to take a look at this sander. We run a 20 or 25 pound weight pack right over the drum. The reason these old American sanders have kind of become the gym floor standard is that they are so aggressive. They're such an aggressive sander. Over here, this is the pulley side. There's a bearing in here. On this side, there's also a bearing. But, so this sander can tolerate a tremendous amount of head pressure on that drum because it's got bearings on both sides. Sometimes people ask, well, wouldn't Galaxies or Hummels work in a gym? They absolutely will. They're just not gonna be as good on a really nasty old floor like this, where there's quite literally tons of polyurethane gym finish that has to be pulled off of this floor. We can put the additional weight pack right on top of this drum and it'll tolerate. We got a 10 horse 3-phase motor, and it'll tolerate that weight, and it'll aggressively pull that finish and all the years of gunk and grime and everything else that's made its way to this floor. The Galaxies, the Hummels, admittedly, they would give a much finer finish to the floor, but you just work forever to get off in a situation like this, to get the polyurethane off of this floor. So we're hooked up. We have power hooked up with a 3-phase machine. It runs just as well backwards as it does forward. So every time you have to make sure that the machine is running in the right direction. I'm gonna test that real quick. You can see that my drum is running the right way. Test the other one. That one is also running the right way. The other thing that it behooves a person to pay attention to is the amount of volts that you're getting, because some facilities have high voltage, 440 or 480 volt power, 480 volt power. We have these machines wired to run on low voltage, 208 to 230. We have voltage meters on these machines. And we're showing 213, 212 volts on that machine, which is right in the approximate area where we want to be. So we did about 20 minutes worth of sanding here on this really nasty floor underneath these bleachers. And it's amazing how well these machines work. You look down at the floor, most of that black gunk is gone, and this floor is gonna look fabulous. But that is why we love these Americans so much. And this particular job, it's just about no other sanding machine that could have done what this thing just did in, let me say, maybe only 20 minutes. So this is what I was talking about earlier, and I just want to demonstrate it on the floor. We got two different sets of paper on this machine. I have 24 grit on this leading machine. I got 36 grit paper on this trailing machine. And let's back up here and just look down at the floor. You can see that the 24 grit is taking off a lot of the finish, but there's still finish left. And then it's the 36 that's taking it to bare wood. So at least in the subsequent cuts, I've got to smooth out the 36 grit marks in the wood, but I don't have the 24 grit abrasive touching the wood for the most part. Okay, so we have spent 11 or 12 hours sanding this gym floor, and I want to take a look specifically under where these bleachers used to be, and we'll just see how nicely that floor cleaned up. All the polyurethane, all the black gunk that was caked on under those bleachers is all gone, and the rest of this floor cleaned up really nicely too. We have 11 or 12 hours worth of sanding with 4 different grits. We started, as we talked about before, with 2436. We then came over again with a 4050 pass. And now we're going to do our final pass with these machines, our fine cut. We'll do a 6080 pass. But before we do that, I'm going to address these drums. I've got a piece of 60 grit sandpaper stapled to the floor. I've got the paper off of these drums. What I'm actually going to do is put some shims in between the cams and then tighten the cams up. My theory is that the split drum, when you put the shims in there that replicate the paper, it's going to slightly open that drum up. And I want to do that, and then when we sand the rubber on that sandpaper, we'll get that drum in a complete cylinder. That's what we're trying to accomplish. I recognize that in time, this is going to eat up your drum. It's going to take the rubber off your drum, but I think that's a small price to pay for not having a lot of chatter in your floor. And as I said earlier in this video, these split drums do have some propensity for chatter because you always got that split in the middle. But by ensuring that your bearings are in good shape and dressing these things often, especially just before your fine cuts, it will really cut down on the amount of chatter that you have across the gym floors. I think it's well worth it. We have found we replace these drums every year anyway because we feel like we should be replacing the bearings every year. It's just as easy then to go ahead and replace the drum. And so I don't worry about grinding all the rubber off the drum because I'm only going to use it for one season anyway. I think it's well worth it to do to get great looking gym floors. Cleaned up pretty good. Okay, let's do the other side. I have a little electrical problem with this sander. This little cup, this little receiver on the handle itself went bad. The machine was still running, but this box was getting hot. I could tell I had a short in it. When I opened it up, that little plug was in poor shape, not making good connections, so I'd tear the whole thing apart. redo it. I do these videos where we talk about different things that we do, but don't ever mistake it that we don't have our own challenges every single day.